All right. Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining our first webinar of 2022. Start off on the right foot, tips and tricks to make sure your fundraising campaigns are on track for the year. My name is Richard Council, and I'm the Marketing Campaign Manager for MobileCause, and I'll be your host for today. The new year is here, and if 2021 taught us anything, it was to stay on top of our game to successfully launch and maintain our fundraising campaigns. This includes trying new things or even revamping old strategies in order to keep inspiring and engaging donors. Today, we're going to talk through some tips and tricks to help keep your fundraising campaigns on track for the year and beyond. As you're all aware, things can change at the drop of a hat, and having some extra tricks up your sleeve can make all the difference. Our fundraising experts will share with you their experience and what helped them, and also some tips on what can help you going forward. These tips and tricks are meant to help boost your fundraising campaigns internally and externally. Before we get started, please know we welcome your participation and we are here to answer your questions. If you have a question during the presentation, be sure to put it in the questions box in the control panel. We have fundraising experts standing by to get those answered during the presentation and during our Q&A. So as I'm sure you're all aware, today's webinar is presented by MobileCause. MobileCause understands the ever-changing landscape of fundraising your nonprofit must navigate while still trying to reach your goals. Here at MobileCause, we not only provide comprehensive online and event fundraising solutions, but also the one-on-one strategy from dedicated fundraising specialists that will help simplify your efforts and maximize your results. With the industry's best support team available to you 24/7, we're there when you need it most. MobileCause has become the trusted partner for nonprofits looking to scale their fundraising quickly and efficiently without paying any transaction fees. Together, we can grow your nonprofit like never before. All right, let me introduce you to today's experts. You'll see Madison there. She's currently the marketing campaign manager for GiveSmart, MobileCause's partner and fundraising events platform for auctions and creative fundraising event campaigns. She joined the GiveSmart team in June 2021 after spending about a year and a half as an active GiveSmart customer. Madison has about 6 years of nonprofit experience from a children's museum to art galleries and a nonprofit for children's healthcare. She's motivated by helping nonprofits elevate their missions through successful fundraising using platforms like MobileCause and GiveSmart. Megan Snyder, she is the current MobileCause customer marketing manager, which is GiveSmart's partner platform for creating custom online giving and event pages. Joined the MobileCause team recently in December 2021 after spending over 2 years as a MobileCause customer. Megan has about 8 years of nonprofit experience from healthcare to public media, including NPR and PBS, to working for United Way. And she's super excited to help other organizations find success with MobileCause endless capabilities. All right. Our agenda today starts with Madison and setting yourself up for success, where she will dive into some overlooked elements paired with tips for recruiting those that will help you do some of the heavy lifting. Next, we'll toss the ball over to Megan, where she will explore and explain ways to implement and maintain your fundraising plans, and also cover what we consider a vital piece of the puzzle, following up and saying thank you to your donors. It may seem small, but you'd be surprised how far it can take you. Before we get into the good stuff, we have a poll question for you. Let me get this launched here. Sometimes it takes a few seconds. All right, getting it launched here. And while we're waiting for that to launch, I'll read it out for you. So we're really interested in what your spring 2022 fundraising event plans are. Have you some in-person events planned? Have a virtual event planned? Maybe you got some hybrid events planned. Maybe you're in the final stages of deciding what to do, or you're just holding on to see what the future holds. All right, wow, we actually have some interesting numbers coming in. We're gonna let that run for a little bit. Let's see. Wow, this is really interesting. I'm pretty heavy on one side, which is cool. It's good to see. All right, looks like we're slowing down just a little bit. And all right, looks like we're coming to a close on that one. All right, so let me share these out really fast. These are actually really cool numbers. Let's see if it'll pull up for everybody. There we go. So a large portion, 38%, have in-person events planned, and that's awesome. 2022 is looking up, that's for sure. Good to see that. And compared to the virtual events of like the poll we ran last year, 13%, but it's going down, which is, it's not a bad thing. The good news is everybody's going back to, or at least having an in-person event plan, which is always great. A few of you have some hybrid events, and a few of you just kind of figuring out what to do in a little while. See if we can figure some things out, which is all right. Okay. Seems like I'm experiencing technical difficulties here. There we go. All right. All right. So now that we've gotten the poll question out of the way, we're going to throw it over to Madison and see if she can let us know what her secrets to campaign successes are. Madison, over to you.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be joining today. So I'm going to start off with elements of success and tips for recruiting some ambassadors for your organizations. So as we move into my first slide here, I wanted to start with an overview of your year. Whether you're running on a calendar or a fiscal plan, it can kind of work the same way with what we're talking about. So looking at everything that you have planned for the year now through December and even January of 2023, which I know is hard to believe that we're already in 2022, but we're getting there. I like to look at dates and then work backwards to establish guidelines and deadlines for things like ticket sales and booking your venues and publications you need for, printing, invitations, and different elements for your events. In a month or 2 or 5, you'll thank yourself for the foresight and will be better off planning overall, even if the scope of your event changes a little bit. Keep in mind, your event deadlines also include virtual components now. When do you need your fundraising pages created? When do you need your text messages sent? All of that can be included in your planning. Pictured, we have 2 versions of an annual fundraising calendar, one for MobileCause and one for GiveSmart, each with similar guidelines but catered to each platform's unique capabilities. We wanted to highlight this resource as we get started because it's an excellent planning guide as you look at your year. And also think about, where do you have gaps? Can you coordinate with an awareness month, something like National Donut Day or Giving Tuesday, to drive extra donations outside of your annual events? So keep up the creative fundraising, keep those ideas flowing, keep your donors engaged. Creative fundraising is a great way to keep your donors motivated and keep your mission top of mind throughout the year. And remember that every ask doesn't have to be monetary, but having the option for your donors available when they're ready or able to donate certainly helps. So moving on to what should our landing pages, what should they have in them? What makes a successful landing page for your event? So we're going to dive into some specific ways that you can plan ahead for certain components. Like if you're like me, you love to create a good landing page, but there's a lot to remember and coordinate as you're building it. To start, for any event, regardless if it's you're selling tickets for a golf event or it's a donations campaign, whatever you're planning, keep your call to action front and center. What do you want your donors to do? What is the end goal for your donors when they're engaging with your landing page? If it's a donation campaign, make that the clear message. If you're driving them to buy tickets, give them everything that they need to know. It's all about the user experience, or in our case, the donor experience. Then give them a description of your event. That includes the who, the what, where, when, and your why, because that's easy. It's your mission. Why are they doing this? Why are they coming to your landing page? They're supporting your mission. You can even have some frequently asked questions, the messaging on your website or your social media or your landing page, so that, if they're curious how to purchase a ticket, or they need to know, I'm attending this in person, but, I might have someone attending virtually. There are different things that you can do to answer those questions ahead of time. Something I like to do is get in the mind of my donor and follow the path through their eyes. Where do I find questions? Where do I have difficulties? And then I write my frequently asked questions based off of my own answers to those questions. That allows me to alleviate their stresses and the pain points of their journey, so their experience with my landing page or my campaign is seamless and enjoyable. And as I said on the last slide, be creative. Take advantage of things like your headlines and your hero image to put your organization, your mission, and the purpose of your event on display. If you have your dates established and a mission statement to follow, beginning the prep on this kind of content early will save you a ton of hair pulling down the road when you're trying to meet other important deadlines. And looking forward to communication, social media, email, direct mail content. Write some ad lib style content for later in your campaign that can be updated in the real time. So, draft some messaging, how much money has been raised, or how many tickets are left if you have a cap at your venue, or what do you need to communicate ahead of time that you can prepare so that when the time comes, it's a copy and paste with just a few extra data points thrown in. And write different types of posts that appeal to different types of donors. When you're preparing, think of your impact report style updates. How close are you to your goal? Think of your volunteers and your donor stories. Why are they supporting you? Get their story, have a really great video or photo of them that will engage your audience. How is your mission impacting your community? For example, if you're an animal welfare organization, how many animals will you help based on the amount of money you have raised thus far? That way it's motivating people. If they're like, oh my gosh, they can help even more if I donate more money, then you're motivating them, and different messages are going to hit different donors in different ways. And with messages, also offer different types of content, images, videos. Facebook and Instagram and even Twitter now have like a story option that they can easily click through. So the different types of engagement that you can keep going, like the more you can do, the better, and you can prep a lot of this ahead of time. And if you have a scheduling tool, schedule it out so that you know that you can check it off the list. And again, you can move on to the more important deadlines you have when your event is coming up. And it's okay if one way works better than the other, or if one platform or communication style works better. You know your donors and you know your audience. Or if you need to find that information out, start looking closer into your social media insights. We'll have a little bit more on that later. But some of your donors like one thing, others may like something else, but it's important to plan out all of your communication before launching your campaign. And moving into my last section here, ambassadors. So organization ambassadors are so important to your mission and the success of your organization. And we've looked at your entire year, your landing page, your call to action, your communication. Now we're looking at the different types of people who you can recruit to help with some of the lift when planning and promoting your events. So whether it's mission ambassadors, like I said, volunteers, donors, sponsors, board members, whatever you call them, they're crucial to your mission. Enable them and motivate them to help you share content and drive engagement. It gives them more ownership and more of a sense of belonging to your organization. And that's so important. And I even know from my experience with my organizations that as an employee or a volunteer, the more that I can do, the more I feel like, wow, I'm a part of this. I can do this. We're making an impact. You want to relay that to your ambassadors. And, they don't need a ton of followers to make an impact. They just need to have an engaged group of people, whether it's friends or family, coworkers, their network on LinkedIn, whatever it is, have an engaged group of people that are also willing to help them spread the word, excuse me. Make it easy for them to quickly share information with their followers, create images that they can share and prepared messages that they can maybe tweak to fit their personal voice, but that they can share with their audience so that you're taking the work out of their hands. Or have an event hashtag that will prompt even further engagement, and it'll also help you track engagement on your event as well. If you have, hashtag insert event name here, it's going to help you, it's going to help them, and it's going to help engagement overall. And their audience then becomes your audience, and you could find major growth in your donor pool by enabling them. And some tips moving into my next slide. Some tips for recruiting ambassadors. You might be wondering, how do I do that? Like I don't have someone who necessarily fits this, this description. We got you. We have some ideas. You can target your outreach by sending messages on social media or even via email. If it's someone who has engaged with your organization, a frequent donor, or a volunteer who just stands above the rest and maybe doesn't too. Like it can be almost anyone that supports your organization. Ask them, reach out to them. Again, make it personal, make them feel like they're making a huge impact in your organization, because at the end of the day, they are. Make it special, make it motivating. You want them to feel like they're moving mountains for you, and in a lot of ways, they are. Giving them as much prepped material as possible also makes it easier for them to overcome any obstacles that would maybe make them say no. If they're thinking, I just don't have the time to dedicate to this, you're like, but wait, I have a toolkit prepared that all you have to do is just post it for us. And that'll make them think, okay, like it's not as much of a lift as I was thinking. Another thing that you can do is encourage sponsors or partners to recruit ambassadors for you. I've even seen employees of sponsor companies play a huge role in getting more donors and even boosting ticket sales for events. Remember, it's a good thing for their PR to show their followers that they support an organization with your mission. So give them what they need to shout it from the rooftops. You could see a big boost in fundraising, engagement, sales, and attendance. For some of your older ambassadors, maybe it's also just an old-fashioned, phone call or written card or letter. Don't forget or underestimate the impact of those methods of communication. I know the digital and virtual seems so much easier and faster nowadays, but sometimes that's even more personal and impactful to someone who could be a potential ambassador. They can go a long way, and it's also just a great stewardship practice overall. And to wrap up my last slide here, don't forget that incentives can also be your best friend. We've talked about enabling your ambassadors with what they need to complete your ask, but what about offering them something in return? For your ambassadors, when asking them for their time and their effort, you could offer things in return, such as free entry or free tickets for your event, or a chance to win gift cards to local businesses or restaurants. Even something like free swag, t-shirts, coffee mugs. I like to get creative with swag. I make it meaningful and thoughtful. So, if you're an animal welfare organization, since that's for some reason the example I'm going with today, you could have branded bandanas or collars made for pets that you offer to your donors. Like, how cute is that you thought of their pet and that's the swag that you're extending to them as a thank you? Because one, it's adorable, and two, it's something that people are going to see and enjoy, and it's just fun. Or even if you're an organization dedicated to children's education or you're a school, consider a branded puzzle or a small coloring book, something that could be an activity that is, centered around a family, but is also something that ties back to your mission. And to kind of wrap up this section on enabling your ambassadors, remember to offer plenty of support and encouragement to fundraisers throughout the weeks leading up to your event or campaign. Make sure they have a person to contact anytime, any place for questions and encouragement. Something I've seen, this past year is, I mentioned earlier, the frequently asked questions section that I include on my landing page. I will often include someone that they can reach out to. If a donor or, someone who's trying to come buy a ticket for your event, if they're having a hard time, we had a volunteer ready 24/7 to answer questions via phone call, text message, or email, so that the donor didn't have to sit and wait for a response and then lose interest. They had the help they needed right away. And that is true for your volunteers and your ambassadors as well. And it may be a little lift for a while for that person or those people that help you do that. But it goes a long way for engagement and encouragement and overall enjoyment of your event before it even begins or during it if they're having a hard time. Personal thank you messages from leadership can also go a very long way. And do not forget to share the results. Like, it's so important. You share your impact with your donors at the end of an event when you say, you know, our goal was this and we exceeded our goal. Thank you so much. Extend that to your volunteers and your ambassadors as well, because showing them the impact that they made means a ton, and it shows that their effort was worth something, and it might also make them a stronger supporter overall, someone your organization can build a stronger relationship with over many years. So that is most of my advice as far as planning for your events. You know, in a broad overview throughout the year, don't forget your planning. Plan for your communication and your landing pages ahead of time. It's going to save you a ton of time when the time comes for your event. And cater to your ambassadors. They are so important to your mission and to the success of your events. And, you know, make sure that you're giving them the warm fuzzies as well. So with that, Richard, I will pass it back to you.
Madison, thank you so very much. If I don't know about everybody else, but I definitely learned some stuff, so that's awesome. All right, so we're gonna kick the ball over to Megan, and she's gonna also give us some deep down awesome secrets of success for the fundraising campaigns. Megan, off to you.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And thank you so much, Madison. It was really great to hear from you, and I'm really excited to kind of build on all the different elements that you talked about. So obviously you've built your campaign, and so now you are ready to implement and maintain that planning. And then, like Richard and Madison both said, following up in the thank yous are super, super important when it comes to continuing that relationship with your ambassadors. So launching your campaign, as you can see, it's like the basics of like send out your scheduled messages, adjust as necessary, know your communication avenues. And I will say quickly on those two things, begin early. Don't be afraid of sending messages often and even as reminders. Also, if a campaign involves tickets, consider thinking about the sales cycle of tickets a little bit more, early bird, regular, at the door, etc., whatever works for your organization, and make sure to always target your previous event attendees first and anyone else who has ever attended any of your other events, just to help you build that audience and connect with them to potentially become an ambassador again. When considering all the communication channels that exist, I would say don't be afraid of using everything that you feel works for your organization. That includes email, social media, video messages, promotion videos, direct mail, even handwritten notes can go so far. And for me, I like to budget from the beginning for the specific items that you feel like is best practice for your organization. And like I said, building that from the beginning can at least help you budget out as far as anything else goes. In saying that, social media is still such an easy way to get information out quickly. So I would say consider adding on your landing page or anywhere else a note that, you know, your other communication channels maybe want to direct towards social media, just because that is going to be the fastest and most up-to-date information that you're sharing out. Also, in saying all of that, as far as like email and social posting and sending, consider looking at your recipients and your followers a bit more to see when they normally are opening emails or interacting with your post, whether that's a specific day or a specific time. And look a little bit more into what they click on. It could be buttons versus links versus images. That'll help you continue to shape your campaign down the road. And also, even if you can't schedule out all your messages or communications ahead of time, try to at least have like topics or general, things drafted out to help you be ready when you're ready to send them out. One thing I like to do is create a calendar, and I prefer that digitally so it can be shared with other staff members, volunteers, or anyone else who needs to be in the know. I know I talked a lot about communicating in that slide, but this next slide will really focus on it a little bit more. Having general communication with your donors around a specific campaign is super important, as we know that keeping them updated in the know will help them feel engaged. We also know, just looking at any sort of information, if donors don't feel engaged or acknowledged, generally they won't consider giving again, which is obviously not something that we want to encourage. For your ambassadors for your specific event or campaign, one thing that I've seen successfully done is if you can have a staff member or a volunteer in charge of weekly or monthly, you can decide focused communications. In saying that, I would take some time to consider creating custom graphics, images, videos, anything like that for your ambassadors, for them to share out on their own time and to their audiences to help drive new engagement. For me, where I saw this work really well is in a previous role, we did an over the edge event, a peer-to-peer fundraising event. And we were able to dedicate 2 staff members to be in charge of communicating with our participants. One person was in charge of individuals and another person was in charge of teams. This communication was happening outside of our general event campaign promotion that were coming from the marketing team, but both of these staff members emailed participants each week and sent over a variety of items for them, including fundraising tips, some language to use, a social media toolkit, any new incentives to talk about. And again, that also can include graphics, images, videos, anything like that. With these participants, the team also had check-ins to make sure they were on track to hit their individual fundraising goals, which was $1,000 per participant. And if they were lagging or needed some more help, the team would provide another opportunity to connect with them to develop a plan. So if anything, use this avenue to help share the results out as well with your ambassadors and encourage them to also share that too. Going on towards, while you can plan for everything, just know adjusting is important. Make sure ahead of time that you're selecting your key elements that you want to share and highlight on your platforms, as well as keep your ambassadors informed. Continue to swipe out graphics, photos, videos, anything like that about your campaign to make sure that people know your landing page is where they're going to find that information, as well as potentially sharing that your social media channels will be sharing this out too. Some key elements from previous campaigns that I've worked on that are nice to share out is an overall goal, any daily goals, a matching opportunity, who's leading in a peer-to-peer opportunity, hitting a donor number, an individual participant or ambassador hitting their goal, a team hitting their goal. The opportunities are endless. Another thing that I think is really successful is finding a way to use numbers and figures in your graphics and photos, as far as not necessarily an infographic, but just finding the right way to show that like $5 a week that you're contributing to this campaign can feed a cat for a week, right? So just finding a fun way to show that through graphics. And I think making any like changes to your CTA is super important. If you hit your goal, don't be afraid to up your goal, and share that out and share out the success of how you hit it and why you're upping it. I think that's really, really important to remember and to not be afraid of. Again, continuing being prepared for any type of campaign adjustment. A lot of you said earlier in the poll that you're having in-person events planned, which is fantastic, and I'm so happy to hear that. But remember, just be prepared. I think it's great to continue to have a plan for each option, whether it's in-person, virtual, or hybrid. I think talking with your venue ahead of time about your options and knowing what their current guidelines are can also go super far. I feel like this is so repetitive, as it's kind of been this way for us for 2 years. But I just think that as long as you can develop a plan for how you're communicating about if you do have to go virtual or hybrid, and make sure you're sharing out like a date when you're making that decision by, so that people kind of know what to expect if you're able to do that. I would also suggest looping in your IT team and the team from your event space with your plan, just in case you are still going to be on site in doing your hybrid or virtual event, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Another thing is as far as if you're having like an auction or any type of raffle or anything like that, make sure that you have a plan for distributing any items, especially if you have to move to a virtual or hybrid event. I think that's just something that goes into a little bit of like the planning and implementation side of things. Now getting into the part that I personally feel like is the most important is the follow-up in the thank yous. Sending out personal thank yous to all of your ambassadors, your sponsors, any donors is super important. Again, tagging individuals and businesses on social media is such a great opportunity, and creating those custom thank you graphics for them to share goes such a long way. I would say the one thing that I've seen that can be really successful, I feel like sometimes it's hard to get individuals to share their social media handles. Finding them for businesses can be a little easier. So for me, something that I've done in previous campaigns is consider adding a special content block in your MobileCause like giving form or anything like that that you're creating, for someone to be able to share their social media handle with you. So that way you can publicly thank the people who are willing to give their handles and encourage them to use the hashtag and retweet and repost or anything like that. It also helps you track your engagement when they're sharing those as well. Again, make sure that in this follow-up and thank you that you're sharing the fundraising total, you're sharing the successes of your event or your campaign. And the other thing to remember too is that with these events being a hybrid and virtual, potentially even in person as far as like donations go, because a lot of donations are online. Remember that your reach for this event might be beyond your geographic location or your physical location. So you should still find a way to thank these supporters, and remember to follow up with this group maybe a little differently than others, because segmentation is going to be your friend here, because maybe they're just participating in a different way than if they would be if they were actually in the location. Continuing this, use your landing page as a great place for follow-up, and like Madison said earlier, use your FAQ in this as well. People might have questions in a follow-up sense, so just make sure that you're updating your FAQ there. I think including photos and linking a video from the event would be great. Obviously, sharing your fundraising total like you can see there is great. I also think sending a handwritten note and a phone call can go a long way. Video messaging and thanking is something that has come about in the last couple of years. I've previously used a platform called ThankView that's been really successful. And again, having something come from your leadership or someone who was at the event or anything like that would be great as well. Just to share a quick story, I am personally a monthly donor and volunteer at my local NPR station. And one thing that they do really well is they send a personal thank you note for your donation and for volunteering. I know not many of us have a radio station at our disposal, but one thing that stands out is when a donation comes in for them during a pledge drive, they will call your name out on air, they'll share your name on their website, it will share your name on their social media channels. Something they also do really well is gives you space to share your like why you give story, and they share those messages as well in the same ways. Obviously, all of this with your permission. You have to agree to that, but it's just a nice way to remember, oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many different avenues that I can follow up and say thank you. And again, going back to your landing page for this campaign or for your event should be an ever-evolving place for your donors. Even after your event wraps up, they should be able to go there for any other updates. And it's not something that you want to set and forget about. It should be that ever-changing element to your campaign as well. And finally, I think one of the most, if not second to thank yous, it is also another super important element. Look at what worked. Take stock in what you've done. Make sure to do a debrief after your event and take notes to help you prepare for the next event or even the next year or the next campaign that you're doing. I I think sending out customized surveys to your groups can go a long way. And people also feel much more appreciated when their feedback is heard and they can see it be implemented. Something I also really like to do to help plan for future campaigns is to look at what other organizations in your geographical area or even your industry are doing and see what works well for them, what you don't think really worked well for them, and kind of use that to help you continue to achieve the goals you're looking for. And the last thing that I will really say is don't be afraid to ask for help. Feel free to utilize your MobileCause and GiveSmart teams to help you be more successful. We're happy to take the time and, share our experiences and answer any questions that you have. I also know that I can speak for Richard and Madison and myself, and that our teams are here to support you and your organization and help you meet and surpass your fundraising goals.
All right. Yeah, Megan, I'm pretty sure we couldn't agree more. That was a great statement. And it's the truth. So, we're here to help you. Your mission is our mission, and we absolutely mean that. Definitely want to, thank you both for sharing all your knowledge and insights with us today. I think today's been super helpful and super fun for those like specifically really aiming to make 2022 the best fundraising year yet. And honestly, we hope that these tips and tricks help you ramp up your fundraising efforts for the year and also and beyond. So truly, I mean this is, I can't wait to see what campaigns you all have in store. We like to look around and watch everybody's progress. And so we're definitely looking forward to that. And so we're coming to one of the funnest parts of our webinars, which is also the Q&A. But before that, I've got one last question for you. And, are you interested in learning more? You interested in learning more about MobileCause overall? I'll launch that poll really fast. Give it just a second. And almost there. All right, there we go. I'll let that run for a little bit. Yeah, that was some really cool stuff. And honestly, there's a lot of things that I learned and that I'm probably going to take note on, especially to be better suited to help our customers and anybody that's looking for assistance and just learning more. So it was really cool stuff. All right, seems like we've slowed down quite a bit. We'll close that out. All right. So best part. So with all that was covered today, we've gotten some great questions in, and we definitely want to address those. Quick reminder that we will be sending out the recording of today's presentation, including the resources that were sent during the presentation in the chat section. So be on the lookout for those in your email. So let's get started here. What we're going to do is we're going to scroll through some of these really fast and get them on the poll or the roster. Sorry, there we go. All right. So for the first one, let's start with Madison. First question for you. Madison. There we go. What is the relationship between GiveSmart and MobileCause?
I love this question. So for anyone attending today who does not know, MobileCause is an incredible fundraising tool. Whether you're a customer or a prospect, I cannot recommend it enough. And MobileCause is a part of Community Brands, which also has GiveSmart. GiveSmart is another fundraising tool, but really focused on auctions. Kind of started as an auction platform, but has evolved into a creative fundraising platform where myself included, I was a previous customer. Customers do auctions, they have, races, they do raffles, they have voting campaigns and all kinds of different campaigns. There are different item types and it's a very broad platform. And the relationship between the two is ever evolving, but there is a bundle between the two so that you can have MobileCause as an excellent peer-to-peer platform, an excellent fundraising platform for mobile messaging, reporting, analytics, text to donate. GiveSmart also has some of those features on top of having auctions and items, and also has tickets and order forms, seating arrangements for in-person events, and all kinds of different features. So if you're interested in learning more, we can include some resources in the follow-up email, or Richard will, to make sure that you have what you need. If you have any questions about GiveSmart, feel free to let us know. But both are really great fundraising platforms, and I can't say enough about what they do to elevate nonprofits and their fundraising efforts. So back to you, Richard, for the next question, unless either of you have anything to add.
No, that was perfectly put. I couldn't have said it any better. All right, let's go. Let's give one to Megan. Megan, can you explain unselfies and how does that impact a campaign?
Sure. So I would say that, like, from my understanding of unselfie was that it was created from someone who helped create Giving Tuesday, which obviously is fantastic and something that we all utilize as like nonprofit organizations. Basically, for anyone who doesn't know what the unselfie movement is, it was meant to be a social media movement along the lines of, like, anyone who wants to celebrate like the positive role in sharing their unselfie, and basically putting it out there instead of maybe donating, you're just sharing, like, by participating in a different way, is my understanding. So whether you're volunteering or you're donating, it's just something that you're meant to show as, like, an engagement piece. The one example, I guess how it would impact a campaign would just be really tracking engagement. And it would be a really great way to potentially find new ambassadors through their social media accounts, especially if they're, hashtagging unselfie in your area, if they're tagging your organization, if they're using a hashtag in any sense like that. It would take some time on your end, but it would be great to, like, really search and seek those out, and obviously, like, share and repost those, and then work to somehow build them in to potentially be ambassadors or volunteers, or continue to be a donor in that way. I'm hoping I answered that question. If not, please ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, and if you have a follow-up question, obviously you can shoot it to us anytime and we will answer it to the best of our ability. And if we can't, we will find somebody that can.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, Richard, real quick, I had something to add on the unselfie talk. Something really fun. I ran a fundraiser a couple years ago for a nonprofit, and it was a scavenger hunt 5K. It was all virtual because it was during 2020. And I actually had an unselfie component where during their walk or run, whichever they decided to do, I gave them a race bib, and on the race bib, instead of a number, I had them write out, why are you running or walking for my organization, which at the point it was Oxford Kids Foundation. So why are you running or walking for Oxford Kids Foundation? They would write their reason for participating, take a selfie with it while they were on their walk or run, and then I gave them a hashtag to use while they were, for when they submitted that photo. And it got us a ton of amazing engagement, and it got more people to participate because they also wanted to say why they were participating in our race, and they wanted to submit their own photo. And then at the end, we shared a collage of all of the photos that we had received, and it was a ton of fun. So I just wanted to add that in because unselfies you can get really creative with them.
Oh, yeah, that's actually pretty awesome.
Thank you, Madison. That was like the perfect of what I was looking for.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to open this up to the both of you. Is there data to prove which performs better for campaigns, either using a simple donation form versus using an event page utilizing more info with the donate buttons? Madison, you can go first if you'd like.
Yeah. So that's a really great question. There are advantages and, there can be disadvantages to both. Sometimes having a simpler option is easier for someone to just go right there, donate, hit submit, done. sometimes having a more like a more expanded options, maybe if you have different options for donating, like if you have a regular option, a recurring giving option, or you want them to donate toward a wish list or donate towards something else, and you can have different options. That can also help them understand that their money is going different ways and can lead to different levels of engagement. So I think one thing to consider is think about what is your, like, what are you driving those donations toward? If it's something like Giving Tuesday and you're just accepting donations that day, maybe a simpler form. If you have an event where you have like, you know, it's a multifaceted event with different avenues, then maybe consider a more elaborate layout for giving. And Megan or Richard, I don't know if you have anything else to add, but that was my first thought, is just consider what you're planning and consider what could help your event. I don't, off the top of my head, have any data toward one or the other specifically. It really does depend on what you're planning.
Yeah, I would second that, Madison. That's exactly what I would say, and I agree with you. I feel like the time where it's like a specific event page is maybe if it's the only way I lean towards having to be a little more elaborate is maybe not the best word, but I can't think of a better word right now. Is maybe to, you know, utilize the kind of like what I mentioned earlier, like $5 a week helps feed this cat, or like $20 a week can feed 10 cats, or like, I don't know why I'm on cats right now, but like maybe adding a different element to that and making it a little more visual versus that you're here to donate quickly and you kind of want to donate, get in, get out kind of thing, versus like, I'm here to learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you both. Got a really good question that actually came in. Actually, quite a few. So, actually, I want to open this one first, and then so do either of you have any recommendations on what to avoid, and probably maybe top 2 to 3 things that you would change as it pertains to fundraising in 2022?
Sure. Yeah, I will go first on this one as well, because I have like some ideas. Something to consider is, you know, you have in-person attendees if you're having like any kind of in-person event or an event with an in-person component. Don't forget the people that you have that are virtual, that can attend, that can donate. You know, maybe they're not comfortable coming in person, or you know, they aren't local because they have joined your cause virtually over the past now 2 years. But make sure you're offering experiences for them. So like really try to focus on having hybrid events, offering contactless check-ins at your events so that, you know, you're making sure that people are comfortable. There are ways that you can take different components of your event and make them virtual, such as ticketing, or check-ins, checkouts, item fulfillment. But make sure that you're not neglecting your like off-site attendees and donors during your events. I think that's one really important thing. And then another thing that comes to mind is I mentioned this earlier, but when you're having your annual events, maybe only once or twice a year, I can't remember where I saw it off the top of my head, but there was data that supported you can reach out to your donors up to 6 or 7 times a year for different types of asks. So take advantage of creative opportunities. We've mentioned Giving Tuesday, or like I said at the beginning, those calendar resources. Take advantage of days or awareness months or different ways that you can fundraise throughout the year. So you're not only asking once, because it also keeps them front of mind. Even if they can't donate every time you reach out, they see what you're doing. You're keeping that engagement going, and that's really, really important. So I don't know if Megan, if you have anything that you wanted to add in.
No, I think you answered it perfectly.
Perfect. All right. Ooh, this is a good one. How do you phrase asking for social handles for thank yous? It's something I've been wanting to implement.
Ooh, that's also a good question. Something that I've done in the past is I always give them an option. So I'll say something like, we appreciate your participation, or we appreciate your donation. Do you mind if we either, tag you on social media for a thank you, or maybe if you're doing a post to round up all of your thank yous at the end, or you're doing an email, whatever you're planning on doing in this situation, giving them the option to either say yes or no. Some people maybe don't want their name or information shared, or if their profile is private or something like that. So I always give them the option, but just really drive home the point of like, we want to appreciate you and we want to shout your name from the rooftops as a thank you. Do you mind me sharing? Or if it's a photo that they submitted, like we were talking about the unselfies, and you want to share content that they have helped create for you, I will say, do you mind me sharing this? Do you give me permission to share this on our channels or in an email? I'll tell them how it's being used so they know. And if it ever is going to be used outside of those guidelines that I provided, I will then ask again. But that is what I have done in the past. Megan, if you have any other ideas.
Yeah, I think how you phrased it is perfect. I was sitting here nodding my head along with you while you were saying everything, and I realized no one can see me. So yeah, I was sitting nodding in agreement, and I would say if you're not afraid of kind of incentivizing people, you could let them know that if they're willing to, share one of their social media handles, that they could be entered to win like a swag raffle or like something like that that's a little different, or you can send them something. I don't know, that might be like just like a fun way to maybe get them to be willing to give and share their social media handle. Not really like a way of asking, but maybe a way of incentivizing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I actually like both of those. I mean, those are things that I would do personally. Just you just have to make them feel like it's just easy, as easy as you can possibly make it, and that's really all you really need to do is just make it as personal as possible as well. That's always super important. Um, thank you both. I got another good one, which is so the best advice for gaining corporate partnerships to sponsor or support a summer reading program.
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, so something to consider with corporate partnerships, something that I've always done. I've worked with very smaller local organizations. That's kind of where my advice stems from. So Megan, feel free to add if you have anything different. But my corporate partnerships, or like local companies that we have partnered that have sponsored, we reach out. I usually make sure that it's someone who's either on the board or even the executive director starts a conversation to either with a specific ask, if it's something like we're asking for a sponsorship, or you could even break out your sponsorship into different elements. Like we need someone to sponsor our signs. We need someone to sponsor our t-shirts. We need someone to sponsor our race medals, whatever it might be, sponsor tables at an event or holes at a golf event. So reach out either with an ask or just to start a conversation. And like I mentioned earlier, you could include their employees as part of it and say, we want to, um, you know, partner with your organization and build a relationship going forward. So that's kind of my best advice. But like I said, I've worked very locally, so it was a little bit easier for me to reach out because we could go visit. At least pre-COVID, we could go visit. Now it's more phone call, email, maybe even Zoom call, that kind of thing. Megan, do you have any other advice?
Yeah, I do. I was making a couple notes. I guess as far as like the question goes, in my head, how I read it is like kind of starting like with any entity to get them to participate or want to come on as a sponsor. So I guess my first thought is thinking of like, who potentially benefits. I mean, everyone benefits when you do a summer reading program, but like could, like what you were saying, Madison, with the breakdown of like, okay, t-shirts and this, but like could you also think about like, okay, we know we're going to need a print sponsor to help us print all the materials for this program, and maybe going in that direction. So really kind of thinking about like who in that sense can be like a beneficial partner in that way. And then another group that I thought of is talk to your volunteers and anyone in your local community who is doing something that maybe would be like a more of like a community partner in that way. But I think talking with like volunteers and kind of your people who have helped support other events or initiatives or campaigns that somehow relate to a summer reading program, I think would be really beneficial. And I also wouldn't be afraid to maybe talk to, I guess in my mind, I would kind of go to maybe someone who I know in like a education or a school setting and kind of like bounce some ideas around with them about maybe what avenues they would go down. I hope that helps.
No, those are perfectly stated. That's literally the exact same way that I would do that. It's kind of going back to the requesting the handles. Is you have to just make it as personal as possible. Give them skin in the game, if you will. So it seems like we're coming up on the bottom of the hour. So kind of wanted to give a quick wrap up mode. So any questions that we did, if we missed some questions, or if you have additional questions, feel free to, of course, shoot us a message. We are completely open. Any way that you find a way to get in touch with any of us, our fundraising experts are available, like we said, 24/7. And you don't necessarily have to be a MobileCause customer or a GiveSmart customer. We welcome all questions. But before we leave, of course, if you're interested in discovering how MobileCause can help maximize your fundraising efforts, please fill out our post-webinar survey or request a demo so you can see MobileCause in action. Thank you again for attending today, and thank you to Madison and Megan for your wisdom. We all wish you the best of luck in planning and launching your fundraising campaigns in 2022 and beyond. We look forward to seeing all of your successes. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you next time.